After World War II, countless German war machines lay abandoned. Iconic Panthers, Tigers, and Panzer IVs were scattered continent-wide. What ultimate fate awaited Germany's numerous abandoned tanks? Their ultimate destination, however, remained an enigma. Years of severe fuel scarcity, intense factory bombardments, and continuous withdrawals resulted in hundreds of military vehicles being dispersed across the nation. Throughout regions like the Ruhr, Bavaria, and near Berlin, Allied forces frequently. A significant number of tanks were intentionally rendered immobile, as German crews sabotaged their engines or gearboxes prior to capitulating. Within the American zone, U.S. intelligence units documented discarded vehicles at locations like Oberursel and Goldorf. British Army units duplicated these operations at Hillersleben and Zythane. Additionally, remaining German tanks exhibited varied states. Some appeared largely intact but proved mechanically unsound due to degraded components. Numerous tanks, like prototype models and newly built chassis, frequently lacked integrated systems, since manufacturing had stopped because of heavy shelling or material deficits. Workshop documents aided Allied teams in tracing. By mid-1945, most of Germany's armored division was kept at Allied-managed locations, awaiting verdicts on their inspection, reassignment, or ultimate elimination. After mid-1945, as triumphant nations established their zones of influence, focus shifted from recovery to technical examination, as the US and UK aimed to grasp their flaws. Consequently, certain vehicles needed to be shipped overseas or tested at proving grounds across Europe. The US military designated Aberdeen Proving Ground as its primary facility in Maryland. Starting in late 1945, the US Army dispatched models such as the Panther, Tiger I, Tiger II, Jagdpanther, and several mechanical investigations and armor penetration assessments. The findings highlighted a distinct pattern: exceptional firepower and optics, yet recurring issues troubled final drives and transmissions. British teams conducted similar Panthers angled armor and extended barrel with the Sherman and Churchill's designs. They noted that German optics provided superior quality. Simultaneously, maintenance teams highlighted the challenges of servicing German vehicles during combat. These British assessments shaped emerging Cold War strategies. The Soviet Union took an alternative approach to this predicament. Recovery units impounded many Panzer IVs, Panthers, and Stugs primarily for training maneuvers. Test results validated Soviet combat assessments, formidable frontal armor, and high rate of. Early in the 1950s, the majority of Soviet retained German tanks were dismantled once spare components became depleted. Vital intelligence was gathered from previously utilized research locations. Allied groups at Kummersdorf and Hillersleben discovered incomplete. At Haustenbeck, damaged Jagdtigers were found within workshops, alongside Panthers requiring mending and crates of additional parts. Initial post-conflict directives mandated that all German armored vehicles be catalogued, safeguarded, and kept from illicit deployment. As a result, debates emerged among Allied planners. Should these tanks be kept for scrap? Every triumphant power followed unique goals. The United States concentrated on comprehensive evaluations. The Soviets accumulated vast numbers prior to determining their destiny. In every Allied assessment, the findings remained uniform. German armor showcased sophisticated optics and potent armaments, yet required intricate upkeep. Such diverse outcomes impacted initial Cold War advancements, increasing the need for slow. Once testing finished, the Allies still held immense quantities of armored vehicles, excess parts, and incomplete prototypes. Between 1946 and 1948, Allied Control Council directives necessitated armored tanks, their chassis and components were designated prohibited items, thereby banning their retention by Germany or utilization for any future combat objectives. As a result, industrial hubs in the Ruhr, Saxony, and Thuringia served as key locations for disassembly. Steel factories in Bochum, Essen, and Magdeburg handled extensive queues of armored chassis. Teams dismantled Panthers, Panzer IVs, and Stugs into fragments with flame cutters and powerful equipment. Germany's post-conflict steel. The reclaimed metal found immediate application in mending bridges, plants, and residences. By the close of 1947, hundreds of armored vehicles had been melted down, removing their wartime footprint. Not all tanks made it to factories. In several countryside regions, Allied engines. A noteworthy documented occurrence took place along Austria's Enns River, where bulldozed Panthers and other machines were forced into riverbank inclines to fortify them. Comparable techniques were employed at quarry locations across Central Europe, infilling terrain for landslide-susceptible. part of the scenery. A substantial quantity of leftover German armor additionally functioned as target hulks. British units deployed tanks at locations such as Lulworth, Americans at Grafenwohr and Aberdeen, and Soviet troops at diverse training ranges. These vehicles enabled crews to. Following considerable damage, they were either abandoned or taken apart for salvage. Extraction operations advanced in conflict-ridden regions where vehicles had been deserted throughout the concluding months of hostilities. Czech and Polish groups recovered wreckage from roadsides, forests, projects. Previous research sites similarly experienced extensive devastation. Incomplete prototypes, for instance, Mouse project components, E-series shells. This comprehensive demilitarization left few German tanks functional. Tales occasionally circulated about clandestine subterranean facilities brimming with Panthers or concealed depots housing pristine Tigers, yet by 1948 the majority of Germany's combat vehicles were eradicated, with merely a chosen few preserved for assessment or handed over to foreign armed forces. Germany's armored division, once dominant on European battlefields, dismantled piece by piece, while amount found fresh utility in foreign armed forces recovering after the conflict. These vehicles met deficiencies for nations without contemporary armor or requiring rapid provisioning. Their post-hostility deployment resulted, and, occasionally, even the 1960s. France emerged as one of the initial and largest operators. French troops collected Panthers from depots in southwestern Germany and incorporated them into their 503rd Combat Tank Regiment. Crews lauded the Panthers' firepower and optical prowess. Parts and worn drivetrains meant French workshops frequently cannibalized many vehicles to keep one operational. Entering the 1950s, field reports often pointed out problems regarding their gearboxes. Therefore, by 1951, French tank doctrine as France rebuilt its armed forces. Meanwhile, Czechoslovakia maintained a unique status, having been a primary center for German tank production throughout the war. After 1945, production continued at Czechoslovakian facilities for the Switzerland acquired many of these vehicles, deploying them successfully deep into the Cold War era. Owing to its simple layout and powerful engines, the Hetzer became an ideal choice for nations looking for cost-effective tank destroyers. Moreover, across the Eastern European region, countries like Romania, Bulgaria, and Yugoslavia came into possession of German armor, from either war spoils or Allied distribution. Many of these were utilized by Romania, Panzer IVs, initial armored brigades after the war. Around the mid-1950s, most nations in Eastern Europe had entirely shifted to Spain also emerged as a relatively small yet significant post-conflict operator of German armor. During late 1943, Germany supplied Franco's regime. The Panzer IV functioned as Spain's leading armored platform until the mid-1950s, being utilized with their outdated Panzer IVs tanks. As maintenance became challenging, the fleet's operational count decreased. Syria stood out as one of the more unexpected post-war operators. During the 1950s and 1960s, this country obtained numerous Panzer IV tanks, sourced from Czechoslovakia and Spain, deploying them in forward-line positions along the combat deployments of a German World War II tank. This prolonged usage highlights the global distribution of surplus military vehicles in the nascent Cold War era, with countries looking for economical equipment during escalating regional conflicts. Depots, local manufacturing, or makeshift repairs. Often, mechanics crafted parts or put together sections from various vehicles, and missing handbooks made training difficult. Despite these challenges, these vehicles influenced military German equipment. Principal armed forces transitioned to standardized gear supplied by the United States or the Soviet Union. At the same time, all surplus Panthers, Tigers, and Panzer IVs found new homes in museum exhibits. The Musée des Blindés in Somor, along with the Kubinka Tank Museum situated near Moscow, saved remarkable units, making sure these vehicles were not completely lost. Should you find this video insightful, we recommend watching what was captured, inspected, and dispersed globally following the war. Please like, subscribe, and enable notifications to receive more content from Hidden